What a day. What a day for women's basketball and the WNBA. Today I'll be giving my initial WNBA draft grades for all 12 teams. We saw Caitlin Clark get drafted, Cameron Brink, Rickea Jackson, Camila Cardoso, Angel Reese. All of these college stars are now making their way to the professional level, so there's no better way to recap it than with some draft grades. These could obviously change. These are just initial grades based on both best player available, how I evaluate them, and then also how I see them fitting with their team. So to start off with Indiana, it's pretty easy, A+. Indiana could have taken Caitlin Clark at 1 and then voided their second 2 picks or just taken a Division II player, and this still would have been an A+ for me. Caitlin Clark, generational prospect, one of the best guard prospects ever. She can score at all 3 levels. She's an elite passer. She has unlimited range, some nice craft as a finisher as well. She's going to change this franchise for the next decades to come. So an A+ is the only answer here. Celeste Taylor can really defend. I like her coming into camp, potentially competing for a spot. Same with Leilani Correa as a wing. She's someone I was way higher on than consensus. I had a top 15 grade on her. I had a higher grade on her than Celeste Taylor. So she's like this utility wing. She can defend. She can shoot. So I like that pick at number 27. And then flipping over to the LA Sparks, I was concerned they were going to overthink it and try to pull some trickery and take Camila at 2 or take Rickea at 2, but they went best player available. They did the thing. They took Cameron Brink. Brink is an elite defensive prospect. She has some offensive versatility as well. She can shoot it a little bit. She needs to really iron out the shooting, but that's something that she wasn't always asked to do at Stanford. They would have her in the post more, or in the mid post more than they would have her at the 3-point line. So if she can continue to unlock her 3-point shooting ability, we're really talking about a very versatile player on both ends of the floor, not only on defense. And then Rickea Jackson at 4. I like this fit. I think I like Rickea at 4 rather than taking her at 2. I think she can really score the basketball. I'm concerned about the motor, the defense, but she has all the tools in the world to be a very high-level starting caliber player, potential all-star if things break right. So an A grade for me is what I would go with. I'm just not going to say A+, but it's a very solid A grade here. And then for the Chicago Sky, I flirted with giving them an A-, or an A, but the issue with me with their draft, I like Cardoso, I like Reese. I don't know how I like those two players together. I understand taking best player available, but it's a very weird duo where both aren't great finishers for their position, relatively, and they both don't shoot. So it's like, is this going to clog up? And it's different than some other front courts where they can space. In the case of Washington, we'll talk about later, I think Aaliyah Edwards and Shakira Austin are better interior spacers than Cardoso and Reese, to where Cardoso and Reese occupy the same areas. So I don't know if you can play those two players together. We'll see. But I like them going with those two players based on talent, based on just overall skill level. And then with Maxwell at 13, this was like a shock to me. She wasn't someone I evaluated too in depth, so I don't really have a strong evaluation on her. I know she can shoot, so maybe this is someone they just have come into camp and compete for a job. I don't know if she makes a roster, but she's definitely interesting at least. And then for Dallas, they had number 5, number 9, and number 33. At 5, they took J.C. Sheldon. This is who I had in my mock. I don't know if it was both mocks, but I really like J.C. Sheldon's fit to Dallas. She can defend. She really is athletic. She fits this system to a T. I just thought Latricia Trammell's offense, Latricia Trammell's defense, that's J.C. Sheldon. She can shoot, make spot-up threes. She can play off a Rickea. Just a perfect fit. And then at number 9, the Dallas Wings took Carla Leite, who is a point guard out of France. Dallas just doesn't have the roster spots to take multiple rookies and have them rostered next season. So fans were like, okay, why didn't they take Nika Mühl? That's kind of the reason why. If they took Nika at number 9, she probably wouldn't make a roster, and then fans would be upset because she's without a job now. So it's like, it's definitely better for both sides for them to take a draft and stash and have her come over in a couple years. And yeah, it's a very good pick. Leite's a very, very high-level passer. In my opinion, the second best passer in the class. She can get downhill, nice floater, could finish with both hands. The shooting's a question, the off-ball movement's a question, but very high-level talent out of France. Then moving forward to Washington, this gave me an A+ for me. I didn't really care what they did at 21 or 30. Aaliyah Edwards, Shakira Austin front court. I legitimately believe this could be a championship level front court at some point. I think Shakira Austin has like all WNBA first team, second team upside. Aaliyah Edwards, like I said, she can't shoot, but she has a good mid-range shot. She can really defend in almost any defensive coverage. I like this fit long term, and especially in a system like Washington, they have a good player development infrastructure. I like what they do there. So I think this fit, this system, and what they've been doing overall for the last couple of years, I think it's an A+ for me. I like this fit. I had a Aaliyah number 4 on my board, so getting her at 6 is tremendous value. And then moving over to Minnesota, I had a B- here. I like Alissa Pili. I like Kiki Jefferson as like a third round flyer. I just don't know what to think about Pili. It's tough. Like, I would like to give him an A, but Pili is such an interesting prospect from a philosophical standpoint. She's 6 foot, but she's like not a 2 or really a 3. She's sort of a 4, not really a 5. She doesn't really have a position, but she's really talented. We've never seen really someone like this in the WNBA from a draft perspective. So, yeah, I just think based on the uncertainty of a skill set like this, it's a B- for me. But I like Pili. She's definitely a top 10 prospect for me in the class. And this might be a surprise to some. I know Connecticut fans shared a similar sentiment when they took Leïla Lacan, at number 10 over Nika Mühl. Lacan is my number 3 prospect. She is one of the best teenage prospects in the last decade. Like, she's the best prospect to ever come out of France, or at least born in France, just in their developmental system. A 5'11" combo guard. She's super crafty, can run out of pick and roll. She can defend pretty much 1 through 3. And I think she has all-star upside. Like, she could be that level of a player. And for Connecticut, they have Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner. But they have all these players on one-year deals, and they don't have a lot of young players either. So they can't just be looking towards, like, this year. Like, they're not a contender this year. They need to be looking for what happens after Alyssa Thomas is gone, right? And Leïla Lacan, I know there's some rules with the French national team and all these different obligations that makes it hard for French players to come over. But overall, I just like this fit for Lacan. Very nice coaching staff, and I think it's a good spot and very good value at number 10. New York Liberty, they got my lowest grade as a C. They took Marquesha Davis, Esme Martinez, Jessica Carter, and Caitlin Davis. There's a chance none of these players make their roster. I would say Marquesha Davis has the highest chance, and she's probably fighting for like their last roster spot. So they're only getting a C because I think they drafted based on the fact that they're just not going to be able to roster rookies. So they just probably wanted players that would come in and compete, and these players are competitors. And I would have liked if New York took a draft and stash and took someone they could use as future value, taking someone like Isobel Borlase or taking another player international would have made sense for them. But I like Marquesha Davis. She's athletic. I have concerns about the shot, but I think from New York's perspective, if she could be their 12th or 11th player on their bench, I think it's a solid fit there. I just don't think the upside's there. I would have liked if they went Puoch. I think that would have been the better pick. If they took Nyadiew Puoch out of Australia, who I just think has higher upside, and they could also do the draft and stash thing. So, and the Atlanta Dream, if you asked like Dream fans, they would probably say an F for this grade. But for me, it makes sense from the perspective that Atlanta already has 4 players that are 24 years or younger already on their roster. You have 12 roster spots, so 1/3 of their roster is already tied up to young players. So can you really take 3 more young players and roster them? Like, no, you don't have the spots for that. So you took the 3 best international prospects on the board, Nyadiew Puoch, Isobel Borlase, and Matilda Villa. If Lacan was on the board, I think Atlanta would have taken her, or Leite, but they weren't. And then Nyadiew Puoch, versatile defender. She is extremely athletic. She's raw though, and with Borlase, she's the better player right now compared to Puoch. She was one of the best players in Australia's WNBL this season. She's a 6-foot wing. There are concerns about the athleticism. Can she get back to shooting like she did a couple years ago, where she was a 39% shooter a year ago, but this year it dropped to 27% as she adjusted to a larger offensive role. So if she can get back to that level of shooting, I think we're talking about a very solid backup wing. And then for Villa, just a productive player, and I think she's 19 years old. She's a starting point guard for a very good team in Italy, and that's better than you're going to find with most third-round picks. Seattle Storm, right after they made this pick, I think it's a B+ for me. And Nika Mühl, first thing they said was like Sue Bird, and it makes sense, but Sue Bird's just a way better shooter, just a way better shooter than Nika Mühl. She just doesn't have the confidence to shoot immediately. Like every time she gets the ball, there's some hesitation there. But I like this fit. I think she has a good chance of making the roster. It probably comes down to her or Jade Melbourne, another Australian point guard who's like 19. I think she's like 20 or 21 now. So I think she could make that roster, and I like that pick. And I think it makes a lot more sense compared to the other teams for Nika Mühl's development. 2 more spots left. The Las Vegas Aces, I gave them a C+. They took Elizabeth Kitley, who is a draft and stash. She had a torn ACL, so she won't be playing this season. Deisha Fair, Kate Martin, and then Angel Jackson. Maybe one of these players makes the roster, but I don't think any of these players are contributors. There's limited upside here. I think Fair would make sense as like a backup guard, and Kate Martin, I just don't think she has the level of athleticism or a signature skill, but I think it was an okay draft. I would have liked if they took a draft and stash as well, just to build towards the future, and getting more young players in can help. I don't think any of these players have that upside to be long-term building blocks to a future core, a future post-super team core. And then finally for the Phoenix Mercury, this was an A for me. Phoenix got Charisma Osborne at 25 and Jazz Shelley at 29. Charisma Osborne was the last player in the green room. She's way better than the 25th pick. Some of these players taken in the second round, she's just way better than. I had a top 15 grade on her as well. Really defends, really plays hard on defense. She's a solid athlete, good positional passer. She moves the ball. And I guess the concerns would be she's 5'8", but she's not like a pure point guard. And the shooting is a question as well. There's a really weird hitch with her shoulder. So I think overall, though, Phoenix needs depth. They need more rosters. They need more players on their roster that are just solid. And Osborne's got experience, 5th-year senior. She can come in and just really play hard. And that could be beneficial for Phoenix in spurts. And then Jazz Shelley, just a solid point guard. Maybe she makes the roster, maybe she doesn't. But, yeah. I think overall, very fun WNBA draft. And I'm excited to get into some more draft content and also getting into the WNBA season. If you enjoyed the video, though, I would appreciate the subscribe button. And, yeah, I'll see y'all next time.